Oni ARE Hibagon, Satori, Enko, Kawazaru, river apes, Kurozaru, black apes, Oni, Oni are Oni, Wow Wow, Ikemono, Yamabito, mountain people, Ohito, big people. And Oni are called by many other names in this long as London to Moscow country, with its many, many regional dialects. The Japanese spoken here in Fukuyama City is, well, it's noticeably different. Some say inferior to that spoken in the snooty prefectural capital of Hiroshima. Natives from here, like my wife could go there and be instantly marked as the country bumpkin that she is, just as easily as I by my atrocious grammar and pronunciation and utter lofty disregard for polite forms. I am marked, even over the telephone, as a hairy barbarian, Northern Ontario, snowbilly varmint hunter. Now, this concept of creatures being known by various names is not hard to understand. The potato bug, as I was taught to call it, you might say roly-poly, or pill bug, or 3 or 4 dozen other names. That's a good example. And they're all the same bug. The Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Wild Man, Booger. Boogers used to grow in my nose when I was a boy. Wood booger, etc. We could make a long list of names for this creature in English alone and other languages. The Native American languages make a wonderful long list. I put out this Oni Hibagon thesis of identity in my book, Hibagon Japanese Bigfoot, and we have discussed it on this channel. The morphological argument, the behavioral argument. These beings are described similarly, physically and behaviorally, hiding in forest and mountain, catching human passers-by, eating some, forcibly mating with others, producing viable hybrid offspring. The etymological argument, Oni comes from a root to hide. This would be perfectly understandable to the Yakama people of the Columbia River Plateau. They call the same being spirit hidden by woods. And really, what better hider is there? There are plenty of perfectly fine runners-up, but for hiding, for successfully hiding, our friends take the cake. Oni are most often translated as demons or devils. Huge overlap with Native American names there. I'm not so happy with this translation, at least not in English, as it suggests a purely spiritual entity. They are also translated as ogres. This is maybe a little better. I would suggest a new translation. I think a new translation is needed on the back of new knowledge and understanding, and it should be based on the etymological root. Most simply, we could call them the hiders, maybe forest hiders, or hiding bastards, if we do want to carry over some of their devilish notoriety for mischief and evil. And as I say, that opens many, many doors of comparative cultural anthropology arguments with the native tribes of North America. The consistency argument, where we have a long, unbroken written record of these beings, and they remain very consistent, unlike imaginary beings. The historical argument, where various emperors and shogun, military dictators, and generals, real historical people with family trees, sent real men with real swords and spears to do real battle and do real flesh and blood injury to these very real forest giants. Whenever they would get too rowdy and bold and organized, then you have to put them down. The eyewitness argument, we have so many, but I'm thinking especially of that case up in Tsugaru, near Tsugaru, in Aomori. I remember it because of the Tsugaru Kokeshi doll, possibly my favorite strain of Kokeshi doll. And up there, a farmer, you remember this story, a farmer befriended one Ohito, as they called him up there, literally big people, said to be as big around as a sumo wrestler, but twice as tall. This big person would come down out of the mountain and help our farmer with heavy work, lifting stuff, moving stuff around, in return for food, until they apparently had some kind of disagreement, and the farmer and the big person both disappeared without a trace. The farmer's wife and the other villagers then abandoned that place and changed the name of it, putting Oni in the name. Lots of Oni stories up in Aomori, and they are overrepresented on the National Police list of mysteriously disappeared persons. A topic that we really have to get more into. We're late. And I'm sorry, I'm mostly an army of one here on the ground, but we will get into it. The artistic argument, where we are not put off by, may I say, typically oriental, fanciful embellishments like horns and blue skin or red skin. These are relatively recent additions, and we can see them becoming even more embellished in real time during our own lifetime. But we can separate the Oni of comic book fiction from the Oni of history. And finally, the logical argument summed up in this rule: we do not multiply monsters. Kind of a Hibagon's razor. We do not multiply monsters. Some big names in the Bigfoot world do that. One big expert writes nasty letters to me complaining that Hibagon are not Bigfoot, N-O-T, capital N-O-T. And he knows, because he's checked it all out from where he lives, from his, I guess, his office, where he lives in, not in Japan. He's never been to Japan. Can't read Japanese. He does multiply monsters, and he multiplies other things, interdimensional portals, and he writes nasty letters. He multiplies nasty letters with fine print, legalistic fine print at the bottom, warning me that if I share his letters, he'll sue me. He'll sue me. That's brave of him. But he has a history of fraud and telling fibs. And anyway, I still kind of like him because he does some good work despite being in private what that Canadian philosopher, the late great Canadian philosopher Norman MacDonald, would call a real jerk. Well, all of this has just been a review, but today I want to show you something I picked up at a flea market last weekend. It's a ceramic bottle from a place called Onigashima, Oni Island, in Shimane Prefecture. That is across the Chugoku Mountain spine from here. Basically, if you go up to Mount Hiba and just keep going, you will eventually descend into Shimane on the Sea of Japan side. And they have lots of Oni stories and Oni place names and a lot of missing people. Although nothing like what we have here. Here we have over 300 times the rate of Tokyo, last time I calculated. 322 times, I think it was. But it'll be higher now because the list here is growing. Now there is a fictional Oni Island in the story of Momotaro, the Peach Boy, but there are several real Oni Islands in Japan. This is the Shimane one, and this one does not pretend to be connected with the Peach Boy. This Oni Island is a bare naked rock. No one lives there. I don't know how it got its name. I don't know the story. The island group to which it belongs is remote and wild with freaky and beautiful scenery. It's the sort of place where you might expect Hibagon, Oni, Japanese Bigfoot to survive and thrive. The economy of these islands is, in order, agriculture, fishing, and tourism. The people here need tourists and tourist money. They want to sell them postcards and keychains and sugary and savory and seaweedy snacks and so on. This bottle is for an alcoholic beverage, probably by the smell of it, shochu. And the targeted consumer is the tourist from the mainland. Now, an easier sell would have been to design the bottle along the lines of the popular cartoon Oni. That is the pop culture, mass culture Oni. Like this one here. But this remote island folk has its own idea of what an Oni looks like. And this is it. Exaggerated features, I'm sure. But what do we basically see? Well, I see a head that is very broad and powerful. A very wide mouth full of large teeth. Mouth that just goes ear to ear. A large, flat nose with a bit of a snout, an overbite, large, human-like eyes, the start of a very large, very powerful mandible, jawbone, a sloping, recessive cranium. Maybe if I lay him down this way, It might be in the eye of the beholder, but I see a very good likeness of our Fuji TV Hibagon cadaver and its reconstruction by our reconstruction clerk. Coming from Shimane Prefecture, sharing a long mountainous border with Hiroshima, and not too far from Mount Hiba. Proves nothing by itself, but I enter it as evidence, part of our cumulative body of evidence, which sooner or later, sooner for me, later for some of the hard of understanding, it amasses and solidifies into proof. So there you go. And I love it. I like looking at it. Now, I've been very busy making a living. Not much time for field work, but I am spending time at the library and making gains there. But it's not easy to make videos in the library, and I apologize about that. And I try not to make a video just for the sake of making a video. I don't make them to schedule. You honor me by watching them, so I try to have something original to say or show you, even if only incrementally original. This weekend is Rito, the autumn solar counterpart of Dishun. Our first discovered liquor cabinet-sized megalith is going to glow again. I'm not sure about the second bigger one. I went up there to Zhao, Mount Zhao, yesterday morning before dawn to conduct a control experiment, a scientific control experiment. The sun rose only 3 degrees off of 109 degrees, at 106 degrees, 6 days before Rito. And Megalith 2.0, the British infantry tank size and shaped megalith, high up on the cliff, failed to glow at all. Not a hint of special glow, so either I have misidentified it, that's possible, or it is built that precisely. And I suspect the latter, but this weekend will tell. Do you want to see yesterday's video where I go up and, well, nothing really happens? If you do, tell me in the comments, and if not, tell me not. So, we have 2 megaliths to view, 3 good locations, and only 2 mornings. So I'm still thinking where I should go and how to set it up. I'll get back to you on that. Dinner with Smokey and Pokey went great. Pokey, especially, is a tremendous ally to me. She sees the world historic enormity of the colossal solar calendar on Mount Hiba. And she wants to be there. She wants to touch it, stand on it, walk on it. She, like she wants an urgent return to Mount Hiba this month, November. And she can remind Smokey daily and nightly and try to light a fire under him. Smokey is willing, in theory, but he's kind of uptight about safety and planning and details and so on. He might turn out to be a brake on our plans. What I had in mind was we go up there, we scoot down on our butts, maybe rolling a few times, and we have ropes in place mainly for help getting back up. We don't need gravity will take us down. We don't need ropes to get down. We could do it in a day with rope from the hardware store, discount rope. But perfectionist fireman, safety professional Smokey, and my wife too, I have to confess, my wife is susceptible to that kind of thinking. Maybe just Pokey and I should go. Just not even wait for our spouses. Not even ask permission. Just go. Here's what my to-do list looks like. Autumn to-do list. Lots of fun for everyone, but bad news. Good news and bad news. I've been commissioned to write a book. Ghostwrite a book. I do a lot of ghostwriting in shorter forms, essays and articles. Most of my writing, the writing I do, you'll never know about it. You never have a clue. I can't tell you about it because I have to hold up the ghostwriter's code of ethics and honor. This is the first time I've been asked to do a whole book, and I'm happy about it. I'm happy for the chance and happy about the income. I'm dreading the work involved. I will try to scrunch it all into the working weekdays and keep my opportunities for outdoor adventures the same as now. Okay, well, I did want to drop in and say hi and let you know I'm still alive. I haven't fallen off a cliff, no thanks to me. Or I'm not buried underneath a collapsed megalithic tomb. I'm just fine, thank you. Everybody's fine, but been busy. But how about that bottle? I just love it. And I love you. And I'll be back pretty soonish. Thank you. Bye-bye.